The galaxy was filled with excitement. Everywhere, from the distant planets to the heart of the most powerful star systems, everyone was talking about one thing: the biggest event in the universe's history. An announcement had just been made. One that would change everything. For months, whispers had traveled across the stars. There had been rumors about a grand contest, but no one knew what it was for. Now, it was official. The Galactic Beauty Contest was happening. It wasn't just any beauty contest. It was something bigger. Something that promised to capture the attention of every living being, alien or human, across the galaxy. The announcement came from a mysterious voice on every communication channel, loud and clear. The Galactic Council is proud to announce the first ever contest to find the hottest female in the universe. All species, all races, from every corner of the galaxy, are invited to participate. The winner will not only be crowned the most beautiful, but will also receive unimaginable power and influence over the fate of the galaxy. This is a competition like no other. The words echoed in the minds of millions. Beauty wasn't just about looks. No, this contest promised something far greater. The winner would hold the keys to the galaxy's future. The Galactic Council had never organized something so daring, so bold. No one knew exactly why, but it was clear this contest would change the rules of the universe. As the news spread, excitement turned to anticipation. Social media channels flooded with messages. Speculations about the contest, its purpose, and its prize flooded every corner of the universe. Who would compete? Who would win? No one knew, but everyone wanted to find out. The rules of the contest were simple but vague. Any female from any species could enter. There would be no restrictions. It wasn't about how someone looked on the outside, it was about the qualities that made them stand out. Strength, beauty, intelligence, and most importantly, power. Contestants would face a series of challenges, each designed to test more than just their beauty. It was a test of who could truly stand out in the galaxy. But there was more. It was said that the winner would gain something beyond just the title. Rumors swirled that the Galactic Council had something else in mind, something dark, something dangerous. The first few contestants to step forward were expected. Famous actresses, powerful politicians, and military leaders from across the galaxy had entered. These women were known throughout the stars, admired for their beauty, strength, and intelligence. They were the ones the galaxy thought would win, but they weren't the only ones competing. Then, the announcement came that shocked everyone. The first batch of contestants was revealed, and among them was a woman unlike any other. She wasn't famous. She wasn't a leader. No one knew where she had come from. Her name was Zara, and her origins were a mystery. She wasn't from any known planet, nor did she belong to any known species. She looked human, but there was something off about her, something strange. Her beauty was otherworldly, and her eyes gleamed with an intelligence that could not be ignored. She stood there, a quiet presence among the loud, confident, and powerful contestants. Zara didn't speak. She didn't have to. Her mere appearance sent a wave of curiosity through the galaxy. Who was she? Where did she come from? How did she get here? The questions poured in from every corner of the universe. Some speculated she was an alien from a distant planet. Others thought she might be some kind of superhuman, someone who had been genetically modified or enhanced, but no one knew for sure. Zara had appeared out of nowhere, and she was already a contender for the title. As the contest began, the spotlight shifted to Zara. The galaxy was watching, and the stakes were higher than anyone could imagine. For some, it was just a beauty contest, but for others, it was a chance to see who would rule the galaxy. The competition wasn't just about who was the most beautiful. It was about who had the strength, the mind, and the courage to conquer the challenges ahead. The first round of the contest was soon announced. The contestants would face a series of physical and mental challenges designed to test their abilities. But even as the crowd cheered, Zara remained calm. She didn't show fear, and she didn't show excitement. She simply stood there, like she was ready for anything. Some of the other contestants who were used to being in the spotlight seemed unsettled by Zara's presence. They whispered to each other, wondering who this new competitor was. Some tried to downplay her, while others secretly feared that she might be the one to beat. The first challenge was simple, a race through an obstacle course filled with dangerous traps and tests of strength. The course had been designed to push contestants to their limits. Only the strongest and most agile would survive. As the race began, Zara was quick to stand out. She wasn't the fastest, but there was something about her movements, calm, precise, and confident. She easily navigated the dangerous traps while the others struggled. One by one, the other contestants faltered, but Zara kept moving forward with an almost unnatural grace. By the end of the course, she was among the first to finish. The crowd went wild. Zara had just shown the galaxy that she was not only beautiful, but she was also strong, smart, and capable. The other contestants, who had once seen her as a mysterious outsider, now viewed her as a real threat, but Zara still said nothing. She smiled only once, and that was enough to send a shiver down the spines of those watching. There was something different about her, something the galaxy hadn't seen before. The excitement in the air was electric. The first round was just the beginning, and everyone knew this contest would only get more intense. But for now, the question remained, who would be crowned the hottest female in the universe? And more importantly, what did Zara want with the power that came with winning? As the crowd cheered, the galaxy waited in suspense. The Galactic Beauty Contest had only just begun, and the real game was about to start. The buzz across the galaxy only grew louder as the contest moved into its second phase. The contestants had proven their strength, but now the challenges would become even more unpredictable. The galaxy was watching, eager to see who would rise to the occasion. And in the center of it all, Zara remained calm, almost as if the whole event was a game to her. Her eyes held a secret, one that no one could figure out. The next challenge was announced. This time it was not just about physical strength. It was about survival. The contestants were to be dropped onto a harsh and uninhabited planet where they would have to survive for 48 hours with nothing but the gear they carried. The planet was known for its deadly creatures and unpredictable weather. Only the fittest and the smartest would survive. Zara's calm demeanor never wavered as she prepared. The other contestants, some with years of military experience, seemed nervous. They gathered in groups, planning their strategies. Some were already thinking about alliances, whispering to one another, trying to gauge who was the strongest. Zara, however, remained alone. She didn't speak to anyone. She didn't need to. Her eyes spoke volumes. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1. And the contestants were off. The planet they were dropped onto was a nightmare. The ground was rocky. The sky was a constant shade of gray, and strange creatures roamed freely. The air was thick, making it hard to breathe, and the temperature fluctuated wildly between scorching heat and freezing cold. It was a test of endurance, but more than that, it was a test of one's ability to think on their feet. As the contestants scattered across the harsh terrain, Zara walked slowly. The others rushed to find shelter or gather supplies, but Zara simply observed. She studied the landscape as if it were a puzzle waiting to be solved. It didn't take long for her to spot something most of the others missed: a cave hidden beneath, a rocky overhang, sheltered from the wind and any predators lurking nearby. Without hesitation, she moved toward it. But as she reached the entrance, something moved in the shadows. A massive creature unlike anything seen in the galaxy before lunged at her. Its sharp claws gleamed in the dim light, and its fangs were large enough to tear through metal. Most of the contestants would have run or tried to fight. But Zara didn't. She didn't even flinch. Instead, she reached out with one hand calmly, and the creature stopped. It hesitated, as if unsure whether to attack. Zara's eyes locked with the creature's, and for a moment, it seemed as though time itself had stopped. Slowly, she took a step forward, never breaking eye contact. The creature, sensing something different about her, backed away and disappeared into the shadows. The silence that followed was deafening. Zara calmly entered the cave, unbothered by what had just happened. The galaxy watching from their homes could only stare in shock. How had she done that? No one knew. But it was clear. Zara wasn't just any contestant. She was something else entirely. Meanwhile, the other contestants weren't doing as well. Most had found shelter, but they were already struggling to stay warm or safe. Some had been attacked by smaller creatures, and others were fighting among themselves, trying to decide who would lead their groups. Alliances were being tested, and tensions were rising. But Zara, in her solitary cave, was already thinking 2 steps ahead. She knew the danger wasn't just from the creatures or the weather. The real threat came from the other contestants. The game was about to change. It wasn't just about surviving anymore. It was about taking control. Back in the main arena, the Galactic Council watched everything unfold. They had been expecting Zara to perform well, but they hadn't anticipated this level of skill. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving, and that made the Council uneasy. What were her true intentions? As the hours passed, the contestants grew weaker. The environment was taking its toll. Many were running low on food and water. Some started to turn on each other, desperate for resources. But Zara? She was calm, almost too calm. It was as if she already knew how to survive in this kind of place. The others were starting to panic, but Zara didn't. She was calculating her every move, preparing for something no one else saw coming. The 48 hours dragged on, and as the clock ticked down, the first few contestants were pulled from the planet. They were exhausted, defeated, and some even injured. Zara, however, had only just begun. As the final hour approached, she gathered what little supplies she could find, knowing exactly what she would need for the next challenge. When the Galactic Council finally called an end to the challenge, the remaining contestants were pulled back. Some of them limped back to their ships, beaten and broken. Others had fallen behind, leaving the rest of the galaxy to wonder, who would be crowned the winner? Who would rise above the rest? Zara stepped onto the platform, her eyes sharp and calculating. She was covered in dirt and scratches, but there was no sign of fear or weakness. She was more determined than ever, and the galaxy, watching from across the stars, was starting to realize something. This contest was no longer just about beauty, it was about power. And Zara was playing a game no one else could understand. As the other contestants looked on, one thing was clear. Zara was not just another competitor, she was the one to beat. The others didn't know it yet, but they were all playing catch-up. And in the game of power, Zara was already steps ahead. The excitement across the galaxy reached new heights. The contestants had already shown their strength, but now, the true game was about to begin. Zara had risen above the rest, and everyone was starting to notice. Her calm, almost unnerving demeanor was unlike anything anyone had ever seen in a Beidoi competition. But the other contestants were beginning to sense it. Zara wasn't just here to win. She was here for something much more important. The Galactic Beauty Contest wasn't just a game of beauty anymore. It was about power, influence, and the fate of the galaxy. Zara wasn't just competing for the title of hottest female in the universe. She had her eyes set on something else, something much darker. She knew that the winner of this contest would have more than just the title. They would have the keys to control one of the most powerful factions in the galaxy, and Zara wasn't about to let anyone stand in her way. As the third round of the contest began, the contestants were called into the main arena, where a massive, holographic display projected the next challenge. The stakes had risen. The challenge was simple, a battle of wits. The contestants would be faced with a series of mind-bending puzzles and riddles that tested not only their intelligence but their ability to strategize and deceive. The galaxy was watching, waiting to see who would crack under the pressure. Zara remained composed. Her eyes never left the screen as the first puzzle appeared. The others, however, were already feeling the pressure. One by one, they began to struggle with the riddles. Their confidence was slipping. What the contestants didn't know was that the puzzles were designed to be unsolvable unless you had a certain set of skills, and Zara had them. While the others panicked, Zara solved the first riddle effortlessly. Then the second, and the third. She was moving faster than anyone else, but she wasn't just solving puzzles. She was manipulating the game itself. With every riddle she solved, the other contestants became more desperate. Some of them turned on each other, accusing one another of cheating. Others tried to create alliances, but Zara stayed silent, observing everything. The cameras caught every moment of the chaos. The galaxy watched as the contestants scrambled, their minds consumed by the puzzles. But Zara, she remained calm. The clues weren't just in the riddles. They were in the way the game was structured, in the way the puzzles were worded. Zara had already figured out the true purpose of this challenge. It wasn't about intelligence. It was about control. The puzzles were meant to test who could think ahead, who could manipulate the situation to their advantage, and Zara had done exactly that. By the time the final puzzle appeared on the screen, she was the only one left standing. The others had fallen behind, too distracted by their own confusion. Zara was not just the smartest. She was the most strategic. She had turned the game into her own, and that didn't go unnoticed. As the challenge ended, the announcer's voice echoed across the arena. Zara has completed the puzzle, leaving her opponents in the dust, but the game is far from over. The contestants who had failed looked exhausted. Some were angry, others were frustrated, but all of them shared one thought. Zara had outplayed them all. They didn't know how she had done it, but they knew one thing for sure. She wasn't just here to win, she was here to dominate. But as the contestants were escorted off the stage, something strange happened. Zara didn't celebrate. She didn't look at the cameras or smile at the audience. She walked away, her eyes focused ahead, as if she had already moved beyond this challenge. Her mind was already working on the next step, the next move. The galaxy might think this contest was about beauty, but Zara knew the truth. It was about control, and she wasn't going to stop until she had it. In the dark corners of the galaxy, whispers had started. Some believed Zara was just a brilliant strategist. Others believed she was something more, someone with the power to change the galaxy. But the most dangerous idea was the one no one had considered. What if Zara was using the contest as a distraction? What if she was playing a much deeper game, one that no one had yet uncovered? The Galactic Council watched everything carefully. They had been prepared for a challenge, but they had not expected Zara to be so cunning. She had already proven herself to be more than just a beautiful face. She was someone who could manipulate the very fabric of the contest, twisting it to suit her needs, and they were beginning to worry. Was Zara truly the winner they had expected? Or was she the harbinger of something far worse? As the galaxy watched in awe, one question lingered in the minds of the contestants. What was Zara's real goal, and could they stop her before it was too late? The tension in the air was thick. After Zara's brilliant performance in the previous rounds, the other contestants were on edge. Some had already given up, realizing that they didn't stand a chance against her. Others, however, were still desperate to fight back. But they knew the final challenge was unlike anything they had faced before. The galaxy was watching, and now it wasn't just about beauty or intelligence, it was about survival. The announcer's voice rang out over the arena, and the crowd grew silent in anticipation. Contestants, welcome to the final showdown. This will be the ultimate test of strength, strategy, and resilience. The winner of this challenge will not only be crowned the hottest female in the universe, but will gain the control over the galaxy's most powerful faction. Only one will emerge victorious. The final challenge wasn't going to be easy. Each contestant was given a small piece of the galaxy's most advanced technology, an energy weapon that could destroy planets. But there was a catch. The weapons could only be activated with the contestant's unique signature. In other words, the weapons would only work if the contestant was truly worthy. It was a test of not just physical strength but moral fortitude. If someone was unworthy, their weapon would fail. and that failure would mean their elimination. As the weapons were distributed, the contestants knew the stakes had never been higher. For the first time, the contest was not about what they could do. It was about what they believed. Would they be able to wield the weapon for good, or would their desire for power consume them? Zara stepped forward first. She was unfazed, her face a mask of calm. The other contestants watched her closely. They had seen her take on every challenge without breaking a sweat, but this was different. This wasn't about strategy or intellect. It was about the heart. The moment Zara's hand touched the weapon, the device powered up, glowing with a soft blue light. The crowd gasped. It was working. But Zara didn't pick it up. She didn't make any sudden movements. She just stood there, holding the weapon, with one hand, her other hand resting at her side. Her eyes were locked onto the other contestants as if daring them to make a move. The other contestants hesitated. This wasn't how the game was supposed to go. They had been trained for physical challenges, for puzzles, for tests of endurance. But Zara was playing a different game altogether. The others began to feel uneasy. They were questioning themselves. Should they fight for the weapon? Or should they step back and see what Zara would do next? Zara wasn't interested in fighting. She wasn't interested in the weapon's power. What she wanted was control. Control over the galaxy's future. The weapon was just a means to an end. Her mind was already working on the next move, the next step in her plan. Without warning, one of the contestants, a fierce warrior named Tessa, lunged at Zara. She was quick, her movements precise. But Zara was faster. In one swift motion, she dropped to the ground and rolled out of the way, her eyes still locked onto Tessa. As Tessa missed, Zara stood up and disarmed her in a single move, leaving Tessa standing there, stunned and empty-handed. The crowd gasped. Tessa had been one of the strongest competitors, and yet Zara had defeated her effortlessly. But Zara wasn't done yet. She wasn't just proving her strength, she was proving something much more dangerous. As the remaining contestants watched, Zara turned her attention to the weapon in her hand. She held it up, and for a moment the entire arena fell silent. Her voice, when it came, was soft but filled with an undeniable authority. "Power is not for the weak," Zara said, her eyes sweeping across the remaining contestants. "It is not about what you can take. It is about what you can control. The galaxy doesn't need a ruler. It needs someone who understands the weight of power." The others were stunned. What had Zara meant by that? They were all here to fight for power, weren't they? The galaxy's most powerful faction was up for grabs, and yet Zara was talking about control in a way no one had ever considered. She wasn't just trying to win a title. She was trying to reshape the galaxy itself. Tessa, now on her knees, looked up at Zara, her face filled with confusion and fear. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice trembling. "What is it that you're really after?" Zara didn't answer immediately. Instead, she slowly approached the remaining contestants. They could feel her presence, her power, radiating off her. She was no longer just a contestant in a beauty contest. She was a force of nature. "I'm not here to rule," Zara finally replied, her voice calm but unyielding. "I'm here to guide, to lead, not with power but with understanding. To show the galaxy that beauty is not just skin deep. It is what lies beneath that truly matters." Her words hung in the air, and for the first time, the other contestants weren't sure whether to fear her or admire her. They were caught in the same struggle the galaxy had been facing for centuries. Do they fight for power, or do they give into something greater? As the final challenge drew to a close, the announcer's voice broke the tension. "Zara has shown the galaxy what true strength is. She has proven that she is worthy of the power, not because of her beauty, but because of her mind, her heart, and her vision for the future." Zara stood victorious, but it wasn't just her beauty that had won the day. It was her understanding of what true power meant. And as she looked out at the galaxy, she knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The galaxy was hers to shape, and she would do so on her own terms. The final moments of the Galactic Beauty Contest were upon them. The battle for the title of hottest female in the universe was over, but the galaxy had witnessed something much more profound. The coronation ceremony was set to begin, and the entire universe had gathered in anticipation. Yet the excitement in the air was mixed with uncertainty. The real question now was not who would be crowned, but what would happen once the title was given. Zara stood on the stage, the center of the galaxy's attention. The final challenge had proven her worth, not only in beauty, but in strength, intellect, and most importantly, control. She had outlasted and outsmarted every other contestant. Now the crown awaited her. But Zara wasn't thinking about the title. She wasn't thinking about the power the crown promised. Zara had already decided that her victory would mean more than just personal gain. It was about shaping the future of the galaxy itself. The Galactic Council, once the governing force behind the contest, stood in front of her. Their faces were hard to read, but their eyes betrayed an unease that was impossible to ignore. They had expected a fight for dominance, a battle of beauty, strength, and charisma. They had not anticipated a winner like Zara. She had changed the game entirely. The head of the council, a tall, imposing figure with eyes that glowed like molten stars, stepped forward and raised his hand. Zara, you have proven yourself to be more than just a beauty. You have shown wisdom, strength, and an unshakable will to lead. The galaxy awaits its new ruler. The crown, a dazzling artifact of glowing crystals, was lifted from its pedestal. It shimmered with power, reflecting the light of distant stars. The audience held its breath, knowing that whoever wore the crown would hold the fate of the galaxy in their hands. Zara, however, stood still. She gazed at the crown, not with desire but with contemplation. The galaxy expected her to claim it, to wear it proudly and take her place among the great rulers of the universe. But Zara wasn't just any ruler. She was different. She wasn't driven by the desire to rule over others. She was driven by something deeper, a desire to bring about true change. The crowd began to murmur, sensing her hesitation. They didn't understand. The rules of the contest were simple. The winner gets the crown. But Zara's mind was already on a different path. With a slow, deliberate movement, Zara stepped back. The room fell silent. The Galactic Council exchanged glances, unsure of what was happening. Was she refusing the crown? Was this a trick? Zara's voice broke the silence. I don't want to rule. Not the way you think. The words hung in the air, leaving the audience in shock. The Galactic Council stared at her in disbelief. What was she saying? She had won the contest. She was the most powerful woman in the galaxy, and yet she was refusing the crown. Zara turned to face the council. The galaxy doesn't need another ruler. What it needs is someone who will help guide it toward a future where power is not concentrated in the hands of a few, but shared by all. I've seen what happens when one being holds too much power. It destroys everything in its wake. I will not let that happen. Her words were calm, but they carried a weight that no one could ignore. For the first time, the Galactic Council seemed to understand the truth behind her actions. Zara was not here to take control. She was here to break the cycle of oppression and create a new way forward. As she turned back toward the crown, the eyes of the universe were upon her. I will not wear the crown, Zara continued, her voice unwavering. Instead, I will choose who will. The galaxy will not be ruled by one, but by many. We will create a council of leaders, each chosen for their wisdom and their ability to bring about real change. The people of the galaxy will decide who will lead them, not a beauty contest or a game of power. The crowd was stunned. What Zara was proposing was revolutionary. It was unheard of. No ruler had ever chosen to step aside in favor of democracy. No ruler had ever rejected the opportunity to claim absolute power. But Zara wasn't just any ruler. She was a visionary. The Galactic Council, still reeling from her words, hesitated. They had spent centuries consolidating power, building an empire on control and domination. The idea of sharing that power was foreign to them. But as they looked at Zara, at her calm, determined expression, they knew they had no choice. Slowly, the head of the council stepped forward and lowered the crown. He bowed his head, a sign of respect for Zara's decision. "You are right. We have ruled with fear, with power, and with greed. The galaxy needs something more than that. If you truly believe in this vision, then we will follow your lead." The audience, unsure at first, began to applaud. Slowly, the sound grew louder until it filled the entire arena. The galaxy was witnessing history being made. Zara, the woman who had entered this contest as a mystery, had now become the symbol of hope for the future. Zara turned and addressed the galaxy once more. "This is not my victory. It is our victory, the galaxy's victory. From this day forward, we will all share in the responsibility of leading. The crown is not a symbol of power. It is a symbol of trust. Trust in one another and trust in the future we can build together." As the crowd cheered, Zara stepped down from the platform. She didn't need the crown. She didn't need the title. What she had was something far greater: the will of the galaxy behind her, the trust of its people, and the hope for a better future. The galaxy had been forever changed, and Zara, the woman who had once stood as an outsider, had become the true ruler, not through power, but through unity.